gas and petroleum in the hemisphere, and they have the second largest deposit of rare earth minerals in the world, in Ukraine. He's like, if I get control of these, I don't care about sanctions because I'm going to make it up with higher energy costs. What he didn't bank on, and honestly what we didn't bank on, is the will of the Ukrainian people fighting back. Yeah. What we also didn't bank on is the fact that that their economy would collapse even farther than this. I mean, the ruble is already junk status, and now it's not even worth a penny to the dollar. The economy is tanking, and Russia can't sustain a long war, so they're in trouble. When people say they're afraid about enforcing a no-fly zone, like Rubio went out and said he's afraid about enforcing a no-fly zone because it would start World War III. That's bull, because Russia can't sustain another war like that in a long war. And they say, well, what about China coming in? Remember, China's economy. Remember, we cut off Russia's economy. We put sanctions all through them. China's economy is almost 65% on exports, and they're not exporting stuff we have to have. They're exporting stuff that's at Walmart and other stuff too. But we don't have to have that, so we can easily cut off. Now our supply chains will be hurt. Don't get me wrong, but we can easily cut off what China is importing to us. They're not really there's some stuff for earth minerals that we do have to have from them, but we can go around them. We can get around that. So that's it. That's one issue that you have to have about Ukraine. As far as Afghanistan goes, guys, it's a long story. There's a little bit more about my past that I don't read in my bio, and I can't get into it. I don't want to get into it, but it wasn't my first time to go over there, not even close to my first time to be over there. We worked in those areas before. I got a phone call right after Kabul fell. There was 20 Americans stuck at the university, at American University there. I got a phone call, and a guy asked me that I used to work with a long time ago. He says, Markwayne, do you still have assets in Afghanistan? Assets are individuals that I worked with when I used to do whatever I did. And I said, well, I don't have any American assets there anymore. They're all out. I said, but I have some contacts there. And I said, why? He said, we got 20 Americans at the university that we need to get out. And State Department's not helping us. Can you help? I said, well, I don't know. Let me see. Let me make some phone calls. Call some guys. They said, boss. They said, sir, boss, let us check. Call us back. Said, yes, we can get you some assets here in country. We can get you some soft armor vehicles. We can get you some equipment that you need, but we can't run it ourselves. You guys are going to have to come in and help. So I called some other guys that I used to work with, some of them I didn't work with. They said, can you all put a team together? They said, yeah, we'll put a team together. And I said, okay. They said, what do you need from me? And they said, well, we just need permission to land. I said, okay. So we try to get you permission to land. So I called, they said, the only way you can land is a government agency has to support you. I said, okay. So any government agency. They said, any government agency. It could be HUD, it could be anybody. So I said, okay. So this is late one night. So I started making phone calls to agencies. Agency finally said, agree to do it. Said, we'll sponsor the flight going in. However, you got to have congressional support. So we need a congressman to support it. I said, I'll be your huckleberry. So I'll support it. They said, okay, fine. Calling back the next day, the agency pulled out, and the flight was the only way it was going to take off is if I was on the flight. Oh, okay. So my wife and I started talking about it. I told my wife I wasn't going to do that stuff anymore. She called it my selfish time in life. I said, babe, we need to talk about it. And I'll be honest with you, her first words was to me, she said, because my wife is, I'm telling you, divorced me a long time ago. Really wish she was here. And she said, when am I ever going to be enough? Because we'd already done the risk analysis, and we figured out that more than likely we wasn't probably going to come home. Because there's a big difference between when we used to be over there before for where we're going now. It used to, when you go over there and you get a little situation, you had Overwatch on you all the time, and you always call the guys in uniform to come help you out. This time it would be what we call a running fight. And a running fight means that the first guy's defending everybody behind him, and it goes down the train that way. That means that first guy goes down, the second guy takes his spot, the third guy takes his spot, and you go all the way down to where you get the principal, the main people out. Everybody else is laid down for them. And we figured that was going to be a real situation because if we get one, no one's coming to help us. So you got to get out. And we had already met, talked, and we did what we call risk analysis. And And I said, well, baby, what am I supposed to do? Because by now, we had a family in Texas. A young lady had called me named Miriam. It was sent to us from our National Guard. Said that her husband used to be an interpreter, and that she was there with her 3 young kids visiting her family before Kabul fell and was stuck. And they needed to get her out. They were all AMSETs, American citizens. Then we got a phone call from another person. He said, hey, I hear you going in. This all happened in 24 hours. I hear you going in. There's a young lady there that her husband was killed. She's a West Point grad, or he was a West Point grad. Her husband was killed. She is back in country in Kabul with her 2-year-old son. She's an American citizen, 2-year-old son's an American citizen, and her father-in-law. And we need to get her out. Then I got another one that was a 3-year-old girl that was really bad shape. She had a bad infection in her legs, very bad infection in her legs. I still got the picture on my phone. It said she's there, she's an American citizen, and her parents are LPRs, legal permanent residents. LPRs, legal permanent residents, meaning they're our responsibility. Can you help them? And that list grew to 280 people in 24 hours. So when they were sitting there telling you that every American wanted out, every one of those individuals on my list was either LPRs, legal permanent residents, or American citizens. And this list grew in 24 hours just because they got word that we were trying to come in and help people. I asked my wife, I said, what am I supposed to do because the flight doesn't take off if I don't go? She said, I get it, but talk to your boys first. Sorry. So I talked to my boys, I sat down, talked to my boys, and I don't have anything from them. I was very honest with them. Told them exactly what the situation was, what the realistic outcome was, and I was so proud of them. I'm proud of my girls too, but they're a little younger, and I didn't want to talk to them about it. But my boys, who I just bragged about a while ago, they said, Dad, you got to go. You always told us not to walk past a problem. You got to go. My wife will tell you the same thing. We hugged. We said goodbye. I was on a plane in a few hours. We started making arrangements. Everybody's saying that we snuck into Afghanistan. That's not true. General McKenzie knew we were coming. I was on the phone with General McKenzie. They actually gave us Hangar 9 to stage at, Hangar 9 in Kabul. We had permission to land. We had deck down times for 2 different planes, the one we were going in on and then another transport plane at. General McKenzie had told me to make sure I'm out by dark and on the 30th because they were going to start excavating everybody else out and have everybody totally out by the 31st, and everything that they couldn't take out, they're going to blow up. Remember that date, the 30th? Remember, we ended up leaving on the 30th and left everything behind. But they told me before we went in, they weren't going to leave till the 31st. So when we get there, we try to land, they pull our landing permission. Wouldn't let us land. Happened 5 times to us, and we went to a country called Georgia and landed in a place called Tbilisi. Fortunately, the prime minister there and I are good friends because we helped him in an election. He's actually a Republican. And in our sense, it was a Republican. To him, he's part of the Conservative Party. And I actually had I'd text him in the air and say we need permission to land because we were bingo on fuel because they didn't let us land. And we had to get down. And he says, come on. I said, well, sir, there's a problem. He said, we're bringing a lot of things in your country. You probably don't want us to come in because we're going to a war zone. He says, on text message, he says, all right. He said, I'll meet you at the airport personally, and we'll load your stuff up on my trucks. I said, okay. Funny how the Lord works things out. Because they didn't let us land, though, what ended up happening is we started setting up rat lines. You guys know what rat lines are? Rat lines is like the Underground Railroad. I'm not making a comparison. I'm just trying to historical facts so you guys will understand. Where you run people out of the radar. And so we started setting up rat lines to get people out of Kabul. And the reason why there were so many people in Kabul is because the United States for months had been telling people, as your territory falls, come to Kabul, we're not going to let Kabul fall. So that's why everybody was in Kabul, okay, to kind of give you an understanding of that. So we had to get people out, and so we started setting up rat lines to Pakistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. And at this time, we were still working, trying to get people in, so we were coming in on those rat lines, and with the rat lines, that means we had to establish a that's mine. With the rat lines, we had to establish safe houses. We had to operate drivers. We had to figure out how to make it work because you couldn't drive. You couldn't have a white face in there, white face here. You couldn't have a white face in there because it caused problems. We had to have local taxis because if you're in a bus, it's too many people. We started having to figure out what time to run them between 2 and 5 a.m. We started setting up safe houses. We started setting up drops for gas, for water, for simple medicine, for stuff like this. We started setting up with the checkpoints. You had to operate through checkpoints. Every American that came through, a child that wasn't married age was cost $500 to go through. Any child that was fighting age or marrying age, which that meant that they could touch the other side of their ear. You could touch the other side of your ear all the way down. You were at fighting age, and you were marrying. It was costing you $1,000 per person per checkpoint. Just to get from Measure Street to Kabul, there were 16 checkpoints. The last 100 meters to Kabul Airport, there was 3 checkpoints. Do the math on that. While we were trying to go in to land, when they wouldn't let me land, after we'd already had approved timing, we had that young lady that had her 2-year-old son and her father-in-law with her at Abbey Gate. This hurts because she was waiting for us to grab her and bring her through the gate, and she was going to fly out on the plane we went with. When we told her we couldn't land, we said, we'll come back and get you. She says, I can't leave. I can't afford to come back. We spent all of our cash. By the time we landed in Tbilisi, the gate had been blown up and killed her and her 2-year-old son and her father-in-law. When I say the blood from what happened in Afghanistan is on General McKenzie, General Mullin, Secretary Blinken, and Biden, I'm not saying that as a talking point. I mean it. The 3-year-old girl with a severe infection, we had her at HKIA, which is the airport, trying to get her in the gate. Couldn't get her in the gate. They wouldn't open it. I sent them pictures. I said, I got a young lady with severe medical condition. She needs in. Can you just get her in? On the morning of the 30th, the State Department said, Mr. Mullin, we're sorry. Do you have another way to get them out? I said, what do you mean get them out? You have the list of everybody we have. Yes, do you have another way to get them out? I said, oh my God, you're leaving Americans. They weren't supposed to leave till the 31st. They decided to leave early. We took that young girl all the way across Afghanistan to the border of Tajikistan. I gave the ambassador a heads up we were coming, Ambassador Pomajin. I called him and said, hey, we're coming there. We're going to drive her. I'm going to jump on a flight. I'm going to fly to you, which means I've got to come out of country, get on a plane, fly to you, so I can be on the other side of the border when my team gets there so we can bring this young girl apart. I said, I need your assistance with some secure cars. We'll pay for it, but I need a driver. I need to make sure we got company drivers that we can use because every agency has vetted car companies that we work with. I said, I need a vetted one. I need someone we can use. He said, all right. I said, what time do you land? I said, well, I'll land at 2 a.m. 6-hour drive to the border. They're going to be there at 8. We're going to meet them there. He said, okay. Called him back. Didn't hear anything. I called him back. He said, Mr. Mullin, I'm sorry, but I was informed not to assist you in any way. I said, excuse me? He said, I was informed by Washington not to assist you in any way. And I said, by who? He said, Washington. I said, give me the name. He said, I won't give you. And I said, then the next time you hear from him, it'll be in my official capacity. That young girl lost her life because we couldn't get her in. She died of an infection on September 10th. A 3-year-old girl. I was so sick, guys. I was so mad. I was so mad at this government. I was so mad. I was just everything inside of me. That's the 4th person I lost. The next day, I lost the whole house because the Taliban broke in and killed a whole bunch of SIVs we had. The following day, they killed a whole family. In a 3-day period, it was like a bloodbath. And then they reported, and this is why I said the administration tried to kill me. Because then they reported, because I quit talking to them. Until then, we were in communication with them. They put a report out that said, I was missing in Afghanistan with a bag of cash, and it showed me a face like this. Has anybody ever seen my official photo? It doesn't have me with a beard. I do now. I'm starting to put everything out with a beard because it didn't matter. But until then, I didn't have anything with a beard. They put a photo of me with a beard and said I was lost in Afghanistan with a bag of cash. They didn't call my wife first. They didn't call my office. They didn't call anyone. They released it to a Washington political rag that put it out on the news, and I'm sitting there in the country and my face comes across Al Jazeera TV. That's a bad place to be. It took me 3 days to get out of country. I literally will believe till the day I die they try to kill me. However, in God's grace, what ended up happening is they picked up a news story. Fox picked us up. Brett Baer ran an interview with us. And when people, the American people, all be that gum this administration, trying to do everything they can to silence the story, the American people stepped up in a way you can't even imagine. That operation was funded completely, independently, by private donations until December 5th is when we finally pulled the team out. So we were only supposed to go in there for 36 to 48 hours, and because of what they try to do, God just had a whole different plan, revetted the whole thing, and by the time it was all out, we ended up getting well over 300 Americans out. All because people heard the story and reacted. For us, we were a small part of it. My team, 100% of us came back when all of us thought we wouldn't come back. Once again, if we would have went the way the Lord wanted, or the way we thought it was, maybe we wouldn't have come back. Probably would be 100%, and some of you guys would say yay. But things happen the way they're supposed to happen, and all I can do is say thank you. But once again, how do you walk away from it? My dad told me one time, and I'll share the story and wrap up. I was 14 years old, and my dad worked hard all the time, and I'm cleaning up a pasture. We had it bulldozed down, and I don't know what it's like up here, but down where I'm from, when you bulldoze stuff, that means you pick up rocks for the next 5 years. And so I'm cleaning a pasture, and I'm OSHA approved here, guys, okay? I've got a tractor, I've got the steering wheel bungee strapped to the seat, I got the tractor bucket way off the ground, I got it low gear, and I'm running in front of it. OSHA approved. And as I'm running, the tractor wheel falls off into a root hole that was soft. And since the tractor was kept going, it kind of picked itself up over itself, hit the bucket, picked itself up, and broke the spindle off the tractor. And I thought, I'm going swimming. Yay! My work day has been completed because there's no way to fix this. So I went in the house and I started paging my dad. It was before cell phones. Started paging Dad. Dad finally called me back, and I told him what happened. And I knew he was going to be mad at me because I tore the tractor up, but I still didn't think it was going to be that big a deal. Dad said, Markwayne, what would I do? Guarantee you I'd fix it. Slammed down the phone. And he taught me a valuable lesson. Don't walk away from something you have the ability to fix. Don't leave it for somebody else. Don't think it's somebody else's responsibility. It's your responsibility. And so the fact that everybody here is here and you're politically involved, thank you. For giving me the time to just visit with you, thank you. For those that are willing to support us, thank you. Because I'm not willing to just sit back and be idle. We want to be in the fight, and we want to make a difference. God bless you, and as always, may God bless the United States of America.